Oh, this is good. Can I get on this side?
Yeah, even better.
It's my best sneaky hand. Man, dude.
Are you okay? I've seen all your struggles, I know about your pain.
Deadly Tarantula Girl at the September 2021 Arlington NARBC, one of my favorite shows in the country. And I'm here with the myth, the man, the legend, Mr. Craig Trumbower. So, I mean, tell everybody everything, please. Start at the beginning. When were you born? What's your favorite food?
Well, I'm old, almost 73, born 1948. It's been quite a life watching all of this just develop and things to change. I mean, back in the day, we collected snakes and we would trade snakes, and now look at it here. And so, been a wonderful life. A lot of experiences, which I wrote. Was lucky enough to have someone publish a couple books. I'm currently working on the complete Pituophis, which is kind of an updated book on pine snakes, bull snakes, and gopher snakes. And hope to have that done within the year. And gosh, I don't know. What else do you want to know?
Well, tell us, were you always obsessed with reptiles? What do you have a memory that kind of sparks your passion?
Well, I do. I started, and it goes back, I have a degree in teaching, and this goes back to give some kudos to teachers.
Thank you.
I was in 5th grade, and I killed a ribbon snake, Little Rock Air Force Base, with my BB gun. Quite proud of that. And was bragging about it at school, and my teacher overheard me and said, well, why'd you kill the snake? And I said, well, it's a snake. So she goes, well, you need to go to the library and do a book report on snakes. So I did that, and I came back. And it was a Schmidt & Schmidt little handbook, and I was fascinated with the color plates. So the next day I could hardly wait to go down to the creek, and I actually caught another ribbon snake, and this time I kept it. And my mother helped me hide it from my dad, who didn't like snakes.
Good woman.
So because of a 5th grade teacher who thought enough to challenge me, it just started something that's been a huge part of my life and has made my life. And I have no complaints. I have no regrets. I think it's been a wonderful role, a wonderful ride, and I like it all, by the way. Ball pythons, colubrids, maybe not hybridization, but all of this. So, and I would like to say, I would like to see everybody get over themselves. Let's stop complaining about the next guy next to you with ball pythons or corn snakes. You either love it all or you don't. Just how it is. So you have a passion. So what else do you have?
Well, so a lot of the people that are in the industry now have been in it within the last maybe 5 to 10 years. They're what some of my friends call deli cup cowboys. So the industry is different now. Tell us about the good old days.
Well, let me speak to that. I walk around these shows and I always ask people, I say, hey, are you having a good show? And, a lot of people say, well, not so good. So my advice is, if you're young and you're going to do this, number one, don't quit your day job to get rich overnight. Become a millionaire doing this, because it ain't going to happen, So, number two, stand up, greet people, be nice to them. And that little kid that wants that little corn snake so bad, his mom can't afford it, give him that cream of zipper double racing striped corn snake, and he'll come back to you in a few years and and buy from you, become a customer.
Exactly.
So be kind, be nice, help educate these people, and you'll do well. You'll do well at every show. I wouldn't take it too seriously, and get over yourselves. There's plenty of us around. You're not the best ever at what you did, and even though you got that big picture of you behind you, kind of like the picture of me on the book.
I love it.
It's like very self-serving. But
this illustration? I'm dying to know.
Actually, Damon Celsius.
Wow,
Yeah.
It's amazing. When I saw it, I was like, yes. And she was like, that's him. I said, I know.
Yeah. So what else do you have?
Okay, so what would you say have been
I
some of your...
can't concentrate with these eyes. These things are knocking me out. I'm 73, but I'm not dead. So what else do you have?
What species have been some of your driving passion through the years?
What species I've been passionate about? Well, I did venomous for 50 years. I'm a crowdlet guy, rattlesnakes. And happy to say I've had all the North American rattlesnakes, most of the Mexicans. I've missed a few, but my passion have always been rattlesnakes. I just got old enough and enough grandkids where been bit a few times, time to call it a day. But I like it all. So I'm not one of those one-dimensional guys. Whatever I have, I'll have a corn snake the day I die. It's really about that passion. Passion sells your snakes. Passion is your interest. And the guys that sit behind tables without that passion, they'll come and go, and I'm not going to knock them. It's just, you either have that or you don't.
Right.
So, and I have it, and I still have it.
Well, you're my kind of man, because there's not one species that just totally steals my heart away. Even my favorite species, I think if I only kept that, I'd be sad sometimes. I love I don't want everything, because you just can't responsibly take care of everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. We could talk about that for an hour, by the way, too.
Seriously.
Yes.
I do love keeping 25 to 50 to 100 different species at a time. Small groups, large groups. What would be your dream animal to work with that you've never gotten to work with? No boards hold, price, legality, none of that matters. Just the animal.
Wow. Well, I would have liked to have completed the crowdlet thing, the rattlesnake thing, and had an opportunity late to get Stygnegerai long-tailed rattlesnakes. But golly, there's just so much. I don't know. I would love to work with a pair of round island boas, which are extremely rare and should be protected and are. Gosh, I don't know. Spider-tailed vipers now that have just showed up in Iran. I think Michael Vesico or somebody's breeding those. Actually had some eggs. Fascinating snake, and I was into Cerastes, Pseudocerastes, and those things. So that would be something that I would love to do, but I'm trying to hold the limit on venomous stuff and not knock myself off faster than I'm going as it is. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll think of plenty after the interview. But a good question. Oh, honey, I'll call you. You just slip me that phone number. Joe is a very special friend of mine.
Joe Laszlo, tell us about him.
Okay, so Joe, I used to go to San Antonio Zoo, and Joe was into banana plants. That was his passion. And half those banana plants you see around the zoo were brought in there by me to give to Joe as a gift.
Oh, wow.
So Joe and I'd walk around. Of course, I always wanted to see what was behind the scenes. And I went out there initially to talk to Joe about Krasnikovi vipers. It's a little viper, and he brought him over. Fascinating story how he got to this country.
Oh, yes.
But it's a little black vipera with a red zig line on its back. Really cool snake, and he brought some over, and not sure how I got him in, but I brought some over.
That's of no consequence.
Yeah, went to see him, and we hit it off really good and had some really cool snakes. So we became pretty good friends, and there was nobody like Joe. Just a great guy. Loved him. Checked out too soon.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
he was an immigrant from Hungary.
Yes. Yep. And when I walk around there and look at the banana plants, he would drag me. He'd go, "Hey, come on, let's go look at banana plants." And I'm going, "God, I don't want to look at banana plants. And I'm from Florida. Come on, I want to go see the willow-die and the stuff in the back." No, I've spoken with his daughter, and Joe is quite a guy. Yeah, and a very original guy, if you know him. So, did you know Joe?
I never got the pleasure of meeting him.
Yeah. Joe
That's one
Laszlo.
of my regrets.
Yeah, quite a guy. Quite a guy.
Joe is known as one of the pioneers in cooling snakes for reproduction. Do you remember any of that, or were you involved with any of
Well,
those
no, I
processes?
remember that. And independently, back with snail mail, we didn't have any of this to communicate.
Right.
We were trying to figure things out.
Uh-huh.
It's very difficult. I'll give you an example. The LA Zoo had a couple of Burmese pythons back when they were rare, and they'd get eggs, but they couldn't hatch them. And then Harvey Fisher, the curator, one year, a big Burm, I believe the story goes, laid eggs in the big water pool in the big cage in the end, and they salvaged them, got them out of the water pool, and they hatched down the line. So they said, oh, well, we need to keep these more wet, more moist. So it sounds so simple now because we know so much, but there you are, an example of how much we just didn't know.
Right.
The cooling thing just came out of, like, what's happening here? Why are they not ovulating? What's going on? And then people like Joe started looking at, where does a snake come from? What's that climate? What are they doing? Well, they're underground. They're not feeding in the winter. They're coming up. So let's try to match this and see what's going on.
Right.
Pretty simple now to think about that, but this whole industry was based on breeding, and nobody could breed snakes 50 years ago.
Right.
It was very unusual.
Yeah, there were just
do
animals
that.
that came in from captivity, and how long could you keep it alive?
Well, and you had a lot of import stuff coming in, gravid and stuff, and you produce those. But actual breeding of snakes was a process that we had to figure out from the beginning, and we slowly did that. So many stories like Vipera nasocicornis, rhino vipers. We would get the babies in such a colorful little viper, and they would die. A big water bowl in the cage. Well, they wouldn't drink from that water bowl. We started using an atomizer and misting them, and they would drink off of their back, little droplets. And we go, wow, look at that. Water bowl here, not going to drink out of it.
Right.
Replicating kind of their habitat, rainforest. So simple things like that we take for granted now, but we just didn't know. So when you started paying attention to, well, let's go over there and look. Let's walk around their habitat. Let's pay attention to that. Taught us a lot, And some things happened by mistake, too, just figuring things out, like the Burmese python.
Yeah, just taking time and making those observations and paying attention.
Well, it is. I have old school, you'll see in the book, old school cages that I built. They're wooden glass fronts. And I like to observe snakes. You learn a lot from their behavior. I remember one time I was at a conference and I said, has anybody ever seen canteals, Bilaenatus, caudal? And babies do all the time, like copperheads, little green yellow tail, caudling for prey. And I noticed, in captivity, over the years, that I had adults that would caudal, and nobody else had seen that. Small example. But with a glass front cage and not a slide drawer, and I have some slide drawers, but with a glass front cage, able to observe that and see that. So little things like that. And of course now, with cell phones and our computers and World Wide Web and everything's at your fingertips.
Right.
And so a lot of people have become experts overnight, which I would challenge. There's more.
Keyboard warriors sometimes.
Keyboard warriors. There's more than that. So, but it's all good. And
tell us an interesting story about something that happened in the field.
Wow, so many different things.
Or a couple, if you like.
Well, some of the stories are in my books. I can tell you, I'll tell you one story.
Okay.
So I write an Alterna chapter, and I lived out in West Texas in the middle of Alterna habitat, collected for years. Some people think I'm just a great Alterna collector. I'm not. I'm the world's worst, except for Dave Barker, my friend. He might be worse. So, I basically looking for rattlesnakes, but you would have thought I'd stumble across more, which, I just didn't, so I think I caught 5 altogether or 4 or something. But I was out collecting with Damon Salceus, who did the cover on this book.
Okay.
And Damon's quite an artist, and he would carve and paint Alterna morphs that were just so realistic. out of a root or something else. And he set me up one night and to walk a cut. And he said, well, you take the top of the cut and I'll take the bottom. We had our lights. And that afternoon, he had planted one of his painted Alterna. Not funny for an old guy who had not caught many. So I saw the Alterna, I dove for it, rolled down the side, got chunked up, bleeding, in my hands, just screaming, and I realized what I was holding was not an Alterna, it was just fake, and I hear this cackling laugh. I told Damon, if I catch you, you're gonna die tonight. I'm serious, you're not getting in the car with me. It was so cruel. But a lot of those stories, a lot of fun stories, few sad stories. I've been bit a few times, and that's not a badge of honor. If you get bit, it's your fault. You broke the rules, and I'm a venomous guy, but a lot of guys shouldn't have venomous. It's not something you free handle and you put out there and you walk around your neighborhood with something.
Right.
So all those things have to be rethought and done correctly. But yeah, a lot of stories.
Amazing. I mean, I feel like we could just talk to you all night. I don't even care about interviewing anyone else.
You keep flapping those eyes, honey, and we'll talk for 2 hours. You know.
Barney Tomberlin was one of our beloved friends, and we did not get to say goodbye to him. I know he was a friend of yours as well. Please tell us anything you want to share about Barney.
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple stories. So Barney and Jim Brockett opened, they were firefighters, and they opened Western Zoological in Monrovia, California. And I was on the East Coast, and back in the day, in a different life and a different marriage, I could fly for free with an airline stewardess for a wife, and I would pack up eastern species in my Samsonites, not illegal, there weren't any rules back then. And, you know, and I would, on the plane, snakes on a plane, I guess, you know, and head out to Western Zoo and trade snakes and bring those back. And I would get what I wanted on the West Coast. And then, you know, I would sell the stuff that, you know, to pay for the trip, the time and everything. So, so anyway, I met those guys back then doing that. One story comes to mind that was told at his memorial service recently. I think it was he and Jim, and I may have the story, I think I've got it right. They had a pickup truck, and they had a pretty big gator, 8-9 foot gator, and Jim Brockett did a lot of stuff for films,
right,
and would put things together. And they had in the back of the pickup truck, heading down the freeway outside Los Angeles. Back of the pickup truck, gate falls down, the gator rolls out into the middle of the freeway, nobody hits it, and they jump out, you know, and they corral the gator and get him back in the back and tie him up. And
cars whizzing all around.
Oh, all over the place. And meanwhile, the police are getting flooded with calls, you know, saying, hey man, there's like a 7-foot gator in the middle of the, you know, the 5 or 210 or whatever it was, you know, and I don't know. Barney was unique. He was a very kind, wonderful man, very smart guy, and kind of a snake guy, and then evolved really into insects, as you know, and really missed by a lot of people, especially the rodeo and Portal community, and real special guy. Yeah, gotta be missed.
If I remember correctly, that gator after that was forever. Oh, so they loaded up the gator, and then the police were starting to swarm, so they drove off into a gas station and just hid out.
Oh yeah.
Because they were worried.
Well, they didn't want to be there.
Yeah. After that, the gator was forever known as Freeway.
Yeah, it was. It was. There's some variations to the story, but it's a true story. Yeah. And Jim Brockett has, actually, if Jim wrote a book from his travels in South America and Central America and Mexico, it'd be a tremendous book. Some of the stories he has down there early on.
Is it out yet?
No, he hadn't written one. I wish he would, you know. I mean, you know, so. But gosh, I'm feeling old knowing all these guys, you know.
Oh,
so,
man. Good times, though.
Yeah,
so,
great times.
Is there anything about the industry that bothers you, or
yes.
Tell us about it.
Okay, well, look, USARC does a good job. We support USARC at their auctions the best we can. We're an industry that a lot of people want a hobby, they want a business for nothing. And if you look at the equine industry, the horses and things, they have a huge lobby group. Mm-hmm. They spend a lot of money. If everybody here would spend $1,000 a year, raise serious money, several $1 million, go to Washington, you hire a lobbyist in a firm, and I don't know what, they have 10 attorneys in Armani suits that represent you. They don't know the subject, but they learn. They get experts. They learn snake law, reptile law. And so when some of these unfair laws happen, get on a plane, and now you've got 5 guys in suits with briefcases that know law and challenge it legitimately. Not that USARC doesn't, but there's only so much they can do with the money that comes in. So I would challenge people to be a little bit more organized and save what you have and spend that money. It's $1,000 is a lot of money, but everybody did that for a year. Look, if you're a bass fisherman, you're spending $1,000 in society and shiners and all this kind of stuff to do what you do. Why not do that? And we should have been proactive a long time ago, and we weren't.
And more united.
And more united. And the other thing too, let's quit picking on each other. I'm an avocational herpetologist, not an academic, herpetoculturist. I like it all. But let's all respect each other here and do the right thing. Let's take care of animals. Let's make sure they have the right housing, the right food. Let's do the right thing. And let's be kind to one another. Let's be nice. And if something's wrong, let's discuss it. Let's get it right. But we don't do that. We don't do that. We need to do a better job at that. Yep. So.
Wise words. Who would you say is your closest friend in the hobby?
Wow. Well.
Or name a few. You can have.
Well, Geb Bailey, a lifetime friend who's not doing well health-wise. Fortunately, I wrote about him in my book. Some of my friends, Jerry Salmon.
Yes, I love Jerry.
Yeah, ex-state trooper, and of course Bob Ashley and I are really good friends. And I have so many friends. I'm not particularly religious, but I'm blessed to have really good friends that I value. And there's so many. Gosh, it's hard to say. I look around and I know a lot of people, and I'm not quite sure how to answer that. Bill Haast of the Miami Serpentarium, who I knew as a kid, who took me under his wing. My dad was killed when I was about 11, and was a World War II P-51 pilot, quite a hero, and killed when I was a kid in a boating accident. I was with him, and my mother would go down to the PX from Fort Lauderdale, which Homestead Air Force Base, and drop me off at the Serpentarium. Got to know Bill Haast, a little pest, following him around the place.
Story. Tell us a Bill story.
I will. So Bill Haast, I'll tell you 2 stories.
Okay.
So Bill Haast loved women. It's just a fact. Had a couple marriages, and my mother was a pretty good-looking woman, and she was in her late 30s, and I noticed when I was a kid, I was about 10 or 11, he was flirting with my mom. Now, he was married, so that could be dangerous, but flirting with my mom. And I was so excited because I always said, oh, this is great. I'm going to live in the Serpentarium.
Bill's going to be my daddy.
Bill's going to be my daddy, And so they had a little gift shop in the Serpentarium, and they had a big Cobra out front and on US 1 down south of Miami. And I went in the gift shop. It's going to be my mother's birthday, and I saw a pair of cloisonne type earrings with a little snake on them. And, I couldn't afford them, but Bill walked in the shop and he said, what are you looking at, Craig? And I said, man, I like those earrings. I want to get them for my mom. And whoever was behind the counter, he said, open up the case and reached in and got them and handed them to me and said, give them to your mom. Tell them they're from you and Bill. True story. And so my mom had those earrings. So another story is that Cookie the crocodile, infamous crocodile that ended the Serpentarium, when somebody put a child up on the wall, it fell in, Cookie killed a child. He'd raised that croc, and of course the whole thing was tragedy. Big signs, irresponsible parent doing the thing, and it was terrible. It jumped in the pit and killed the croc, but everything ended after that. And but when Cookie, it was about probably 10 years, longer than that, prior to that, his daughter, who was, I think her name was Naya, Cobra, Naja, I think they pronounced her for, anyway, had a Cobra, the car, when they first came out. And Cookie had gone through the back 2 doors and pushed those doors open. Had gotten out of the pit, big croc, and big salty, I think it was, or maybe it was a Nile, I don't know. But it was trying to get out the doors, and so she got in the Cobra and nudged Cookie back through the doors of the Cobra. And I think they were like light aluminum, maybe fiberglass, but anyway, Cookie bit the fender and chewed part of the fender off. So Bill Haas used to tell a story. He said, yeah, try to explain that to your insurance agent, you know. My crocodile just chewed off the fender to my Cobra. It's a true story. You know, do I have insurance? So a lot of nonsensical stuff. So many stories. I could do a book just of old stories like that, but he was certainly a mentor in my life. Carl Caulfield, who I met before he died, gave me some notes. I found my first Subak and Virtus Concolor, what used to be deck color. I caught, through his notes, and what a great storyteller, and certainly somewhat of a mentor. So, yeah. I didn't, but I had a pair of his books signed by him, his Rattlesnakes books, very rare. And I donated them to IHS this year to Bob, wow. And then Bob auctioned them off, wow. I think for IHS. So that went well. Didn't know him, but I have a very nice letter from his granddaughter, because in the book I wrote one of his poems, quoted his poems, and I got permission from her, which she was very gracious to do. So yeah, and I have some of his memorabilia. I have some of his cards and things and the way he did things. Wow. He was quite a guy. He wasn't just a herpetologist, but did a lot. Knew every plant in Southern California, and knew it all. So fascinating guy.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So what's in the future for Craig?
Get up every morning and still get in the saddle and not fall off, and love my wife, love my kids, and wink at pretty girls.
Sounds like a good plan.
You know what I'm saying? And keep a snake until the day I die, So,
awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for
you're
spending
welcome.
this time with us. I've been
You're
looking forward to it all day.
Good.
And I look forward to becoming friends.
Yeah, you bet.
Awesome.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Just text me that number, honey.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. All right,
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this was a good one.